Okay, so today we are going to begin. Thank you everybody for joining us today at today's webinar. Our presenter today is Robert Alemida. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. So my name is, as Kevin said, is Robert Alemida. I'm the pneumatics product manager slash business development. I've been with Proax for over 4 years, and I worked also previous SMC employee as well, back from the early to mid 2000s. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining.
Fantastic. So I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a few extra trainings coming up. Friday, as you can see, Fridays and Wednesdays, we have our weekly trainings, as you see on screen. And if you have any questions throughout this presentation, feel free to leave them in the chat and we will answer them at the very end.
Thanks. Yeah, and if we find time is short, yeah, please do leave your questions in the chat, and what we'll do is we'll answer them afterwards, and we can send a link or a document afterwards as an FAQ with the answers as well. So I guess with that, I will proceed. So there's the schedule there for upcoming training. And let's click here. So again, today's presentation is on SMC Electric Actuators. There's my contact information for those who are interested. A bit about Proax. We're a national distributor. We have locations across Canada, 13. We just opened one up in Manitoba. We have 4 design and build shops, 3 major distribution centers to cover the country. We have great technical support. We're growing, over 180 employees, and we represent a series of world-class manufacturers, SMC being one of them, and a core part of Proax's offering. Another value of working with Proax, we have a fantastic technical team covering all our core disciplines. We assist in engineering, design, innovation of products, R&D. We have manifold build shops. We conduct training, kind of like we're doing now virtually. And also when things open up, we also do training as well. And also encourage everyone to visit proax.ca, where you get access to everything that Proax has to offer. You get your pricing, stock availability. As far as SMC is concerned, you have access to SMC eTech. It's integrated into proax.ca, so you can configure, get pricing and delivery, and download and such. And with that, I guess we'll delve into electric actuators. And the first portion here will be on the actuators themselves, and we'll delve into the controllers. This is a good slide here because it gives you an overview of the ecosystem of electric actuators that SMC has on offer. And I think a great way to provide a context for what they do have, basically it's an electric equivalent to their pneumatic offering. So as you're looking at the actuators and grippers, and you're thinking about payloads and what they can do, try to think of their pneumatic equivalents, and that'll give you an idea of how they perform. Obviously, you can size them, but as kind of just for a context for understanding of the size and shape and function. So the first series here is the LEF slider. I would say this would be a mainstay and a go-to for SMC electric actuators. It mimics the SMC MY mechanically coupled rodless cylinder. Max horizontal payload for the ball screw is 65 kilograms or 140 pounds. And for the belt drive version, the max payload is 25 kilograms or about 50 pounds. So that gives you an idea of overall payload. Again, as I mentioned, you can have the ball screw or a belt drive. Going with the ball screw, you get to higher precision, but you're also limited in overall length, whereas a belt drive allows you to go quicker and have longer lengths, but you do sacrifice a bit of repeatability with that. Along with that actuator, SMC offers in the LEFG support guide. And essentially, it's just like a block and rail. And so if you have a large offset load with significant overhang, it helps absorb the moments. It has the same footprint as the slide. So for mounting tooling, no adjustments are required. Basically, you keep it on the same plane as the actuator, and it makes adding a bearing very, very simple. And also aesthetically, it's the same. So it's a great solution. Moving on, we have the LEY Series. It's a rod type, and that would be analogous to SMC's perhaps CA2 series or NCA1 or CP96. To 500 mil in stroke. Again, all of these you're looking at for the most part are going to be 24 volt steppers. They also have AC offerings as well, but the first part here, we're going to be talking about steppers. And I would say it's probably the bulk of what Proax is. In terms of pushing force, you see there, so for the DC version, 1,000 newtons. I did the version here, I've written it down, which is about 240 pounds. And if you were to go to the AC version of 3,300 newtons, that's about 750 pounds of thrust. So these actuators can do both positioning, moving a product. It can also be used for pressing. I think it's great. We've seen these used in the plastics industry for pressing inserts where you don't want to apply you don't require a whole lot of force, but you do require some control, and that's what these do. You can control the positioning and also control the force output as well. These particular units also allow you to put the standard D-M9 auto switch onto the actuator. So if you want an external confirmation of achieving positions, you have that groove there to accommodate that switch. And I guess the sister line of that is the LEYG, same footprint as the LEY, except it has the external guides. I guess this would be analogous to the SMC's MGP series, where it has the center drive rod and the two guide rods to handle moments and side loading. These would have a shorter stroke than your standard LEY due to having the guide rods. With the advantage, and it can handle side loading better, and also offers a tooling plate to mount tooling onto. For the LEY, there are a series of I guess environmental options. So depending on the environments, so by utilizing the Xcode-X5, it makes the enclosure IP65. So in order to do that, there's a housing that goes over the motor to protect that from water spray. And also they include a threaded port or a vent hole that you can insert a KQ2 fitting and run a tube out of the immediate vicinity to allow the actuator and the center channel to breathe as the ball screw goes back and forth, allowing you get a source of dry air outside the wet environment. And not all sizes are available with the X5, so it tends to be on the smaller size on the steppers, so the 25 and the 32 equivalent bore size. And also you can get this with the AC servo as well. Oh, sorry. And there's also a note you see up there in red. If you go with I guess it's something that's been launched recently by SMC. If you wanted the guide rod style, the LEYG, there is an X5 option as well, which will give you stainless steel guide rods as well to make it further resistant to a washdown environment. And something recently launched by SMC was the -X7. And this makes the enclosure IP67 rated as opposed to IP65. The rest of the housing would be similar, or the housing would be similar. So you have the enclosure for the motor, you have a threaded vent hole so to allow you to get a source of dry air to allow the channel to breathe, but also there's grease supply holes as well to keep the shaft breathing. And for the X7 offering, you can get the larger size as well. Now going into the LESH series, these would be equivalent to the MXS or MXQ small slide tables, precision slide tables. So these would be used in gantry systems for pick and place. You would mount tooling onto this, like a small gripper, that type of thing onto this actuator. So it's very small and compact. In terms of payload capability for the, I guess the H, high rigidity type. For horizontal, the max load is 12 kilograms or 26 pounds, is depending on the offset. And for pushing force, you can get up to 180 newtons or 40 pounds of thrust max, again, depending on the size and the application. That gives you an idea of what these things can do. In terms of repeatability, it's 0.05 millimeters, and it provides you with a lot of mounting surfaces to mount your tooling onto. And as you see on each slide, they also talk about the life. Typically, it's either in for cycles or distance traveled. So that last actuator had a precision of 0.05 millimeters. If something more precise is required, a new higher precision offering was just launched with an X code of X171 for the smaller size, with equivalent to a 16 millimeter bore size. That will get you a repeatability of 0.01 millimeters, so quite precise. And again, the workload is quite high versus the standard, so it's 12 kilograms. Moving on to grippers, two finger grippers, 3-finger grippers. As the note states, and as I've mentioned before, the electric grippers are analogous to their pneumatic counterparts. So if you're used to sizing electric or pneumatic grippers, the electric offering will follow suit in terms of size, form, and function. One of the good things, or one of the benefits of going electric, is the self-locking. So if for an e-stop or a power off situation, the grippers maintain their gripping force. So it minimizes the risk of dropping loads during e-stop or emergency conditions to help maintain safety of the work cell. Also, by going electric, you have more finite control in terms of positioning and also force. So you can control gripping force. So if you have delicate items you are picking up, you can control the output or the gripping force of the actuator. So I've seen testing units of they're picking up, you could pick up an egg if you wanted to, or you could pick up test tubes or delicate items you can pick up with the electric actuators, with these electric grippers. Rotary tables. Again, these you can get specific rotations, and you can also get full 360. So for continuous rotation, that is also an option. To accommodate that, there is an external sensor to confirm the home position, and to get into a little bit of detail, when you do that, requires a different cable than the standard one. That's something we get into when it comes to sizing and creating packages for these electric actuators. There's 3 or 4 different sizes available for these rotaries. You can get external stops if that's advantageous to you. There's a high precision type as well, depending on the accuracy you require. There's also a center passage, the center of the actuator as well. So it accommodates the routing of either tubing or cabling through the actuator itself. So there's some functionality to these actuators. So this here is the LEL Series slider. This would be, I guess, one of the benefits to this actuator here is its low profile. You can see on the image of the actuator that the motor is laying on its side, and it's within or below the envelope of the actuator itself. So you can have a workpiece overhang on that carriage, and at the end of stroke, the motor will not interfere with that item. These are a lighter payload. So you're looking at, look at my notes here, max load of 5 kilograms or 11 pounds. So definitely for lighter duty. But of all the slide type actuators, is probably the most cost effective. The line in general is very cost effective. But of all of them, this would be the most basic actuator. So this might be for a small camera application, for a vision system or that type of thing. We find that the LEF is probably the mainstay of the slider types, but depending on the application, these can also offer a solution. Moving on to the LEM series. This is another low profile slider. Actually, this and the previous one that I showed, these are belt driven as opposed to ball screw. So that's reflected also in the positioning and repeatability. You'll see it's at 0.08 millimeters, whereas your ball screw, I believe, was 0.015. So you don't get the same accuracy as you do with the ball screw. But these are, the flip side is these are very cost effective. So for those who are a little familiar with the line, many years ago, SMC had offered a series called EMY2, which was basically a very simple electric version of a rodless cylinder of an MY. And it offered 3 positions. That has since been discontinued. In terms of fit and function, the LEM is a drop-in replacement. So should you have an existing application where you're utilizing one of those and were to come to end of life, these are, again, drop-in replacements in terms of the actuators. We can assist you in sizing them to ensure they do fit. The controls on the EMY2 are not transferable to these. We'll be going into the controls in a bit. We can definitely assist you on the integration of those new controls. But the main thing would be the fit of an existing work cell, and these will drop in and fit. These are belt driven, and maximum load you will have on these is 20 kilograms or 44 pounds. And again, here's talking about having a drop-in replacement for the older EMY2s, and there's an image of those older actuators as well. So those who are familiar with it, those images will be familiar to you. And if you have one of those and you're looking to swap them out, please contact us. We'll assist you with that transition. All right, getting to even smaller now, there's the LEP or miniature series, and these would be analogous to either like a compact cylinder, an MX or CQ2, or an MXH slide, where the guide is on the end. So these would be with smaller sizes, more compact, dealing with more perhaps just smaller discrete assembly, or dealing with small forces or a small work envelope. These actuators would be ideal. There's a pushing force at 100 newtons, just over 100 pounds. And 20 million cycles. So at this point, that was kind of the a run through of the 24-volt DC steppers. Again, my experience thus far has been that has handled the bulk of the applications that we've been engaged with. SMC also offers AC servo sliders to complement the 24-volt steppers. These offer a bit of a higher payload and accuracy of motion as opposed to the steppers. So it's one step above. And I think there are some motorless options that we'll get into a little bit later. I think that we can really add value to you and your applications. So this is LEJs, again, one step above the LEFs or LEFBs. Available ball screw or belt drive. These use third-party motors and controllers. And with a higher payload capacity, you can get up to 85 kilograms or about 190 pounds with these servo options. As I mentioned, for the LEF, the LEY, and LEJ, you can order them motorless. And that way you can affix any motor you choose. There's a list of them there that the SMC has compatible interfaces with. Working with Proax for motors, we definitely recommend the Omron 1S Servo. And we definitely support you on that. And we've created packages in the past utilizing SMC slides and Omron 1S servos, and they've worked out really well. And going that route allows you to control the actuator within the SysMac environment. So especially those who are familiar with SysMac, it becomes a very clean solution for you. And we're currently working on a live demo or a hands-on demo of an SMC motorless actuator along with an Omron 1S servo. And once the COVID restrictions are lifted and we're all able to visit one another and conduct in-person trainings, we'll open that up as well to either go to your facility or have you come to Proax for some hands-on training or demonstrations on that combined solution. And again, this is kind of outlining different manufacturers available to bolt on motors. SMC documentation speaks of the SysMac G5 motor, but the 1S servo will fit on there, not a problem. It's a more current offering from Omron, so we definitely recommend when going motorless to go with the Omron 1S servo. Definitely the way to go. In terms of sizes, what you can expect. So for the sliders, you can get up to 400 watt output. The high rigidity ones accommodates only up to a 200 watt. And for the rod type, you can get up to a 400 watt as well motor. And again, when it comes time to sizing, we can definitely assist you with accommodating or sizing and putting in an Omron motor. And I think it's also be a good time when it comes to integration of third-party equipment in creating an overall solution. As I mentioned, we can always assist incorporating Omron, but we've recently brought on a high wind as well. And for those instances where you're dealing with a high offset load or dealing with a lot of moments, whereas perhaps the standard stock actuator would not be able to handle it, we can, with high wind block and rail, we can support that load and support those moments and allow the actuator to do its core function as providing motion and thrust. And I think that's something that we can, the technical team can assist you on in providing those solutions and combining both the SMC slides, Omron servos if required, and also high wind block and rail if required as well. So this is a new item launched by SMC, a larger bore size rod type cylinder, the equivalent to a 63 bore X765. Again, this current offering stocked by SMC is for a third-party manufacturer, but should you require something of this size, Proax can definitely assist you in incorporating an Omron 1S servo into this application. They're working through SMC's engineering in the US, or creating a custom bracket to allow the servo to mount onto this actuator. And on the slide side, SMC's launched a new actuator. It's equivalent to 100 mil bore, and you can see for payload capability, horizontal up to 400 kilograms. Let's check my notes, which is about almost 900 pounds, and the vertical is 80 kilograms. And again, there's a couple of third-party offerings that SMC offers stock. Again, when it comes to using these applications, Proax can definitely assist you in incorporating an Omron 1S servo into this application here for you to provide a clean solution. Moving on for special environment, especially now, right? There's been a big focus in medical, so doing a lot of clean room. There are clean room offerings for the slides, not necessarily for the rod type. For the slides, there are clean room. Oftentimes, it incorporates additional porting on the slide to allow you to include vacuum ports to remove particulate that's generated by the actuator and allow you to clean that air. So both on the stepper and the servo types. And for those who either work in or build for, I guess, battery manufacturing, there are actuators available that are suitable for secondary battery manufacturing. So they would be copper-free, zinc-free, and also for environments that are extremely dry, they can operate within an extremely low dew point atmosphere, so down to -70°C. So again, for those, especially now with the advent of electric cars, those who build for the battery cell industry, SMC and Proax can provide you a solution for that environment. Okay, so I'm going to step into controllers and drivers and show what options we have. First off, the LECP6 or LECA6 controllers. These offer 64 points of positioning, and these are discrete wired. So you'd have a cable that would connect into the driver here, and you just consume I/O on your discrete I/O on your PLC. So this would it takes 11 inputs and provides 13 outputs. So that gives you an idea of the demands will be on your I/O for your PLC. These do require software. Most of them do to configure your the motion. And the software is all downloadable from SMC World. The main thing you do need is a special programming cable. You see that in this case, it's the LEC-W2A-C. We've had inquiries in the past if this is something that can be made and custom made. Something that can't be. It's something that has to be obtained from SMC. And again, when it comes to building packages, this is where Proax can assist you in not just providing you the actuator, but also the entire system, so that it all arrives whole, and is that you're able to start configuring right away. Alternatively, there is a teach box or a teach pendant, and we'll go into more detail in some later slides. And again, this is available in both PNP or NPN versions. Something that's just been launched is the LECP6 with an X code. And what's significant about this addition is that it allows you to do a jog function without having to use the teach pendant or the software. They've dedicated 2 bits for that, so it reduces the overall number of steps from 64 down to 32. But from your HMI, or you're just providing 24 volts to the appropriate pins, you can manually jog the actuator to a specific position. So if you're looking to program points and try to figure out positioning, you don't want to do that within the software. It allows you to do that actually in the environment where the actuator is operating. So another recent addition to the driver or controller line, the batteryless absolute encoder. So these controllers work with absolute encoders on the 24-volt steppers, and this would require you to buy not the standard actuator, but those that will have that encoder on there. And the main benefit would be for startup and power up, you don't have to conduct a return to origin function. Upon power up, it knows where it is and helps speed things along power up as opposed to doing a homing function. So it's something that's just launched. Going over the features and benefits of that. And again, when it comes to using the actuators, you don't use the standard or the actuator you're familiar with. The how to order is different. So if this is something that is appealing to you, or even an application that you really would require an absolute encoder and it'd be a benefit to you, we can assist you on specifying an entire package. JXC controllers, I would say this is probably the bulk of the applications that we engage in involve these drivers. I would consider these the flagship. These are all, they communicate via field bus. These can be daisy chained, so you can communicate via either Ethernet IP, EtherCAT. You see now there's also an IO-Link offering as well. So all the, and Profinet. So for all the major protocols, we do have a driver to communicate with. And also, these can be purchased blank. So these drivers need to be configured for each actuator. And generally speaking, these are stocked as blank controllers. One of the services that Proax offers is the configuration of these actuators. So by the time you receive the goods, the actuators are configured for the actuator that you do receive. And these JXC controllers, they replace the older gateway units, which are these here. And these are an older technology, definitely don't recommend using these, but just wanted to include this for completeness for those who may have used these in the past. So if you have a current application and you're considering using gateways, please reach out to us and we can migrate you over to the JXC series for a more cost-effective solution. This is the LECP1 programless control driver. I do 14 points of positioning, and these will consume 6 inputs and 6 outputs. These don't require any external software or control. Everything is programmed on the unit itself. So there's an image there in the center of the screen. You can control your speed, acceleration, your positions, and you save all those points on that driver itself. And then your PLC will just call position 1, position 2, position 3, and do your positioning. So for very simple applications, perhaps where you only need 2 or 3 points, again, perhaps for camera, vision inspection, this offers a great cost-effective solution where you don't want or you don't require a lot of complicated control of the actuator. It's a great solution, especially for pressing applications too. These forward and back. It's a great. It keeps things simple and cost effective. So SMC has enhanced this by allowing you to do a simple jog function. So if you have external push buttons and you just simply want to manually jog it back and forth, you don't have to pre-program points. You just simply wire up a couple of push buttons to the I/O, and as long as you're pressing the button, it'll move in one direction, or you hit the other button, and it'll go back in the other direction. So this allows for very simple operation if you require it. So this is the LECP2. This is, I guess, the cousin to the LECP1, but it's exclusive to the LEM series. And if you recall, the LEM is what replaced the older generation of EMY2s. It's belt-driven, and the significance of this driver here and that actuator is that actuator allows you to mount external mechanical stops onto that. So if you want a simple 3-position motion, so your 2 end stops in a center position, You get the actuator, you mount the end stops along the stroke where you require it. And this unit here has what's called the stroke function. And it'll automatically go from end to end and determine what the entire travel is based on your mechanical stops and automatically calculate what that middle position is. And that way you'll have your 3 positions out of the box and ready to go. Doesn't require any software. So for more of your standard kind of plain Jane vanilla applications, it's a great solution. Again, it also offers functionality in that if you do require to change the stroke or the positioning, you can do that. And this driver will relearn the new positions and then offer you and calculate the middle position as well. You can still calculate other positions if you require, but if it's for simple operation, it's a great way to go. And again, this is limited to the LEM series. So the SMC has drivers for their AC servos. I won't spend a lot of time on these. For their AC servos, they're available both in incremental and with an absolute encoders. Again, these are mainly done through third party. And you can see the motor sizes. You would find that once you go down this road, we definitely suggest using Omron 1S servos to accommodate your needs. There's some more recently launched or other offering on the AC servo motors. Let's go through these. Again, for the servo, definitely suggest using the Omron. Depending on what you're using, what your application is, SMC does have a solution on the AC motor side. And typically, these are purchased as kits, so should you require it, we can help you or assist you in building those kits. So moving on. So for gantry systems, multi-positioned, multi-actuator, or where you require synchronized motion, there are 3 and 4 axes controllers available via SMC. You can have them controlled either with a parallel I/O or with Ethernet IP. And these, again, when you require synchronized motion, perhaps 2 actuators running side by side, this is definitely the way to go. Or if you require interpolation, again, these actuators will help you with that. As can be seen here, is one of the main advantages. So for the 3 axes, that 1 driver will replace the use of 3 drivers, so it's consuming less space in the cabinet. And also being actually a little more cost effective than buying 3 independent drivers. And again, same thing with the 4 axes. It is a smaller footprint than the buying 4 independent controllers. You know, all your control within the box. And this has just been released for those who keep up to things on SMC World. There is a 4-axis a simple controller, and it functions somewhat like the driver I just shown you, where you can incorporate multiple axes into 1 driver, but the motion is very simple. So basically, you're mimicking a pneumatic operation with electric actuators. As you can see, in terms of the actuators that you can use, it's the rod type actuator. So if you're just emulating, again, a pneumatic system, but you're required to be electrical because there's no compressed air at that location, this would be something you could use. There's a sneak peek at the architecture. So these use different cables than you would use on your standard offering. So again, should this be of value to you, Proax can work with you to build a package to meet your needs. We're coming up near the end here. So software and cables. So there's the LEC-G software. These are all downloadable from SMC World. You get the latest versions there. Allows you to tweak the parameters of the different drivers. You can program points to the different drivers. You can save. So if you've downloaded certain profiles within a driver, you can upload them here and you can save them and back them up. So if something were to get corrupted, or should you need to replace a driver, you'd have a backup here within the software to get your other actuators up and running. Or should you have repeat jobs, this could be a great solution for you. So you can program new drivers that have the same profiles embedded to make repeated jobs a lot simpler. This is something you only require once. You don't need to get it again and again. Same thing with the the cables. There are two different types of cables depending on what it is that you're controlling. You have your discrete I/O driver, and you have your Ethernet or your field bus driver, and those are the two main two different types, and those require their own cable. And with the advent of Windows 10, it prompted the need for different programming cables. I guess the main takeaway would be, again, should you require an electric actuator solution, this is where Proax can assist you, confirm what you do have, and make recommendations as to which cables and which products to use to ensure that it works once it's out of the box. And the software for the AC servos. And this discusses the software for the multi-axis controller. So again, you can configure the actuators that it's controlling and do all your profiles and all your motion, and the interpolation is all done through the software. It'll be a different software than you're using for the other drivers. And again, when the time comes, Proax can assist you with ensuring that you have the right software for your driver. And this is the teach box. Using one of these, you don't require the need for the software or the programming cable. You can do that all through this teach pendant. It all depends on what's more advantageous to you. Again, when the COVID restrictions are relaxed, we do have one of these in Proax, and when we do our on-site in-person demos, we can walk you through how to use these teach pendants, so you can see if it's something that you require. This is something that's new, offered. This was developed out of SMC in Europe, but gantry brackets. So when you're creating multi-axis solutions, instead of having to fabricate your own from scratch, there are preformed, pre-made, already sized up, drilled, ready to go brackets to join the different components together. There's a link there to the PDF where it shows those. When we send out our subsequent FAQ or Q&A, we can include a link to this document. So should you be required to build a gantry system with SMC actuators, we can assist you in selecting the correct components. These are currently sourced out of SMC Europe. Work with Proax, we take care of all the back end, but I know SMC is looking at supplying or manufacturing these local, so these can be made in North America as well. So a great, compact, simple solution for creating gantry systems. And lastly here, they've launched a lock release unit. So if you require, I just want a simple system and you just want manual control of the lock or brake of the actuator, you can have a switch at the actuator itself. So it looks like a little light switch there, runs on 24 volts. So the operator can lock or unlock the brake when required. So that's it for the presentation today. So kind of summarize what Proax is all about for those who may not be as familiar. We're national. we pride ourselves in our technical expertise. When COVID restrictions are lifted, definitely I would love to resume doing on-site training. We offer quick lead time. I know across Canada, Proax stocks over $2 million of SMC inventory. So we definitely encourage you to take advantage of that inventory. We provide quality products, world-class products, SMC being at the forefront of it. Definitely encourage you to use proax.ca for checking stock and for doing online purchasing, especially in the current environment. We do have a strong technical team. We do have mechanical designers on staff. We encourage you to utilize those resources to provide solutions for you, and utilize our expertise to come up for solutions for you. Again, this is going back to that, resuming the training schedule that's coming up, and that concludes the presentation. So Kevin, if you want to come back online. I can check here for questions. Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. There is my email address there. So if you do have any follow-up questions, please feel free to contact me directly. And there is a draw for a Proax/SMC gift pack. And I believe Kevin is taking care of that. And once we do conduct that draw, we will reach out to that person to get your shipping information, and we'll ship that out to you as a thanks for taking your time out of your busy schedule to participate in this training. Okay, I'll give it a minute here to see if Kevin can come on back online.
Yeah. Hey, Robert.
Hey.
So at the moment, there isn't any questions for you. But however, if anybody have any questions, oh, you have one. Two. Do you want to pull up the chat and answer these questions?
This here a question about the braking system for these electric cylinders, electric actuators. The braking system themselves, that's something we can go into. I believe it's done through the motor, so it's not a mechanical brake. And it also requires a separate cable as well. What we can do is we can take this offline. We can delve into more detail and provide more specifics on the email itself as to the specifics on the brakes. Any other questions?
Yep. Okay. We do have. Did you answer the question for the total cost of ownership of electrical and pneumatic actuators?
Total cost of ownership.
And
I think over time, what you do find is when you compare electric versus pneumatic, depending on the application, sometimes you do find that over the lifetime of the component, it is cheaper to go electric because air is not cheap. So perhaps for your high cycle actuators that consume a lot of air, that cost does accumulate over time. The initial investment is definitely cheaper to go pneumatic for sure. But I guess it all goes by application because there are a lot of benefits to pneumatics that electrical simply cannot do. And especially for simpler operations, if it's just end to end, and sometimes that's the best way to go is to go pneumatic. But generally speaking, I would say over the life, you might find that electrical is less expensive, slightly. So it shouldn't be shied away from, I guess, because sometimes people look at the initial, when they're comparing pneumatic to electrical, there is definitely a price difference to be sure. But again, by going electric, it also offers a lot more functionality and a lot more value and a lot more control. And that's where you have, when you're comparing the two different types of technologies, you need to figure out what is most important to you. If it's really a simple application that's just end-to-end, bang, bang, repeated, everything is fixed, you probably should migrate towards pneumatics, because that's what it does best. But for multi-position, more finite control, force control, position control, you look at you going electric, and using the SMC family of actuators, you find it, I would say, is most cost effective. Dollar for dollar is the most value you'll get is going through the SMC Electric Actuators, for sure.
Thanks, Rob. If anybody have any more questions after this webinar, feel free to email myself or Robert, and we will answer them. After the webinar today, I'll be sending everybody out a thank you email, just letting you guys know with links to all of our future trainings that are coming up as well. Next one will be on Friday, which is Oriental Motors. So stay tuned for that. I'll send everybody a link after this and a recording of today's webinar so you can review it for your personal time. Thank you, everybody, for participating today, and hope everybody has a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.